Hey everyone, my name is Deseret. I am planning on just going over briefly some ideas for STD/STI lesson. I just saw the teacher that I'm shadowing this semester. I saw her kind of do her lesson plan with the students, and I took notes on it, and there were things that I liked and other things that I found. So to begin, so this is the focus for this lesson. It's just focusing on sexually transmitted diseases and infections, and then also comparing and contrasting the effectiveness of different things like condoms and such. So there were some cool ideas on here. I just found this online. The thing I saw the teacher do, she used the PowerPoint, which I think is super common, where we see PowerPoints being used. So she just used a PowerPoint to introduce STDs and STIs, and she ended up, so the teacher ended up separating the class. She had already set up the desks into different stations, so it was a station rotation, and there were different groups of desks and the students. One thing I noted for my future use is she, I guess at the beginning of the year, already had assigned numbers to each desk. And so the students were assigned their desk number, and that way, when they came in and the room looked different and it was in groups of desks rather than in the rows, she just reminded them to go find their number. And that way it was less chaotic of them coming in. It was a little more organized. So that's something I hope to use in my future classroom, is just have numbers assigned to the desks, and then you also know where they go. Like she had the students um, at the end of this activity, she had them return the desks, and they just did it according to numbers. So it was really smooth. So I like that. So she had the students went to the different stations, and each station had there was a stuffed animal looking thing of what the STD or STI looks like. And she said that they've just had those, previous teachers. At some point, somebody bought them, but it was what it looks like. And they had that in the center of the desk and information on it. And they have, let's see, I'll share it with. Let me make sure that screen sharing the right one. So she has, I scanned this one. I can share that, but she has this information where it talks about what it is, like the contraceptive method. This is a different one down here. This one's different. So here are the different contraceptives and effectiveness, and then the percentage of how it protects against STDs, and then male or female method. And this was cool to see at the end, effectiveness of against like pregnancy, and then protection against STDs. It was cool once the students filled it out to see the percentages, because here it's 100% effective against pregnancies and 100% protection against STD, and that's the only one. And so to see it all side by side, like the percentages side by side for all of those, I thought it was helpful. And then down here, so she had them go to each station. She put a 5-minute timer on the board. And I thought that was cool too, just having it up there so the students can see. And then having like some classical music or something non-distracting in the background. And then she had them read through and write down what they found, the information here. So something I think I would have changed maybe is, rather than, because they were just reading and then writing, the information, and I don't think it was necessarily, I don't think it went beyond that. I don't think they thought too much of anything else aside from this activity. So I think I've seen professors that I've had where they've had poster board and markers, and they've split the class into groups. So I think still doing like station rotation type where there's already groups set up. And then she ended up, one of my professors had each group have a large piece of not cardboard, but like the cardstock paper, and then a bunch of markers, and each person did a poster. So it was on a poster, so each group was supposed to research their own different, so like here could be one group's research says chlamydia, and then they do a poster board just on chlamydia, and they work together on it as a group. So they research it, they do it, and then present it. So I think that's a little more hands-on for the students than simply just having them regurgitate information, like reading and writing it down. That way they're a little more involved. It's still regurgitation, I guess, but then they're a little more involved. Maybe they'll remember it a little better. So the teacher that I'm doing my practicum with, she did that and then had them fill out all of this and did the 5-minute timer, which I thought was helpful. And then she went back to some information that she wanted to focus on. So at that point, like I would focus on the percentages and help them see it side by side and talk about that and focus on that, how the big thing that she focused on was abstinence never fails when it comes to being effective against pregnancies or unwanted pregnancies and being effective against STDs and just protection there, that abstinence never fails. And she talked about that, which I like. I do remember when I took a class on this, the professor focused on, so she showed a lot of pictures, and she said that normally when we think of STDs or STIs, like we think of these gruesome, awful pictures. But she hit it hard that just because you don't have, like a person might not have those types of symptoms, it doesn't mean they don't have an STD or an STI. So I think because maybe it's believed that in order, like if somebody does have an STD or an STI, they will have those, like it'll be severe and it'll be ugly. And she said that's not always the case. And so not to feel safe just because people don't have, like if somebody or if they themselves, a person is not showing those gruesome symptoms, it's still important to get checked out and to be safe. So that's something I would focus on as well. This was, she kind of, so the teacher split it up half and half, where she focused on this, STDs, STIs, and then she ended up using the last bit of class to finish up the talking about the menstrual cycle, and they had a period party, which I thought was cute. So she ended up, so she put this, she reiterated, so this is a little different, but since she included it in the lesson when I was there, I thought I'd include it because I thought it was a really good idea. So she talked about, she reminded the class about the periods and the typical 28-day cycle. And she had them each make bracelets. And she started out with beads, but she ran out of beads, so she brought Fruit Loops. And I think if I ever do this, which I think I will probably just use the Fruit Loops because then it's memorable. I think students will probably often see Fruit Loops throughout their life, and then it's something that'll be memorable and kind of trigger memories of health and taking care of themselves and such. So I think I would use Fruit Loops for this, but basically you'd use, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4 different colors of Fruit Loops. And so for example, for this part, you use 7 of one color. And then this one where it's possible to conceive, there's 4 different days. So you do 4 of a different color Fruit Loop, and then 5 of a different color Fruit Loop for this part. And then here it's 12, the thickening of uterine lining. So there's 12 days there. So you'd use 12 different colored Fruit Loops here. So it's a total of 4 different colors and that many Fruit Loops of each part of the cycle. Hopefully that makes sense. And so then we put them in baggies and we gave them a string, and they just did the menstrual cycle. So they ended up putting the 7 that were the same color together, and then the 2 of the different color, and then the 5 of that color, and then the 2 and the 12. And they put a bracelet, and all of the kids, it was really sweet to see because they all put the bracelet on. Like they were super cool about, even the guys, the boys that were in the classroom, they all put the bracelet on. And then she ended up having what she called a period party, which I thought was cute. And so they were celebrating periods and ended up putting on, she chose the movie Up because we had recently talked about healthy relationships and she wanted to show examples. She told all the students to look for examples of healthy aspects of the relationship that they demonstrate in the movie Up. And then she brought ice cream, and so they were just watching the movie like for the last 15, maybe 20 minutes of the class and celebrating periods. And she talked about how, so one thing I think I would have changed, because she did mention that when girls are on their periods, all they want to do is eat ice cream and watch movies. And I think that's a little bit derogative. Like I think it could be explained in a better way. And talking about, because it is amazing what the human body does and the female body does to be able to one day conceive. And so just maybe not putting it in under such bad light, if that makes sense. And I think too, for me, one thing I thought about was alternatives to ice cream. So ice cream, I know, is cheap. Everybody loves ice cream, but so by that time it was 8:45 in the morning, and these kids were just serving themselves this huge serving of ice cream. I thought they will definitely have a sugar crash by like 3rd period, if not sooner. So it does take a little more effort to think of alternatives, healthy alternatives when it comes to like treats in the classroom for days like this for a party or things like that. But they're out there. I think maybe I thought of just popcorn. Popcorn's cheap and it's yummy. There could be toppings for it, or popcorn and some fruit or veggies or different things like that, where it's just healthier since we're in a health class and just focusing on health a little more. So those are just some ideas. There was, let me stop sharing the mic. I need to unsync because my 2-year-old, there's another one. Oh, the other thing I think I would do is right here, maybe doing something at the end of facts and myths about STDs and STIs. I think that would be entertaining for the kids too, and insightful for them to see. And then to also, I like what Marissa said in the last recording about how numbers are going down, like teen pregnancies are going down. And it's so important to talk about that so that students know that it's not what everybody's doing, that they need to be safe and wise, and it's something that's going down. And I think that's awesome. And it's important to mention those things. But then doing a facts and myths about STDs and STIs, and maybe like a game with that. So this was more just ideas rather than teaching actual lessons. mainly because of time-wise and because that's kind of what I understood Cooper wanted us to do. So hopefully some of that was helpful. There's just ideas that I've seen from my practicum hours and then just online different talks I have. So hopefully that helps.